আমি না তুই আমি
আমিও
তুই
জানি না.
দে তুই কর সমস্যা নাই করলে গেলে actually.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Just a few hours away now from the all important World T20 final. And of course, from Team Bagherda, it's again me, Rakimul Haq, and joining me today is Fardin Kibria, as always. Fardin, let's talk a bit, very briefly, about the six teams that didn't make it here. Of course, it's more than six, of course, but we already
Yeah,
spoke in length about the teams which didn't make it to Super 8. So
yeah,
let's talk about the Super 8 journey a bit, the semifinals, because there's really isn't much to talk about the semifinals, let's be honest. So we're gonna keep it all congested into one and then move on to the all important final. Let's start.
yeah. Unfortunate, very
Very
unfortunate.
unfortunate.
Yeah.
But let's start with the United States of America, of course. Their first
Uh
World Cup, making it to the Super 8s, and then a bit disappointing in the last couple of games, but of course, a very good fight against South Africa in their first Super 8 game.
yeah. I think one thing that really hurt US was probably the unavailability of Monank Patel for those last five games they had right away after following that famous victory against Pakistan. They just didn't have Monank after that, and that opening partnership seemed to just struggle continuously. But honestly, all of that aside, massive for cricket in the US, massive for cricket in North America as a whole. To have US in the Super Eights, even if we talk about in context of what was happening here in Toronto, everyone was talking about how the US have made it, how against all odds, against everyone's expectations, they have made it to Super 8. And then to do it in style, where they came on against Canada basically from behind to win that game, and then Pakistan game, Pakistan probably put a little more pressure on them. But yeah, I think the last two games kind of showed where US cricket needs to get to. The game against West Indies and the game against England, I think it showed that there's still room for improvement and there's still room for growth, no matter how good some of the players are, right? And I think you'll agree with that that we've seen some really good talent this year in the US squad.
Absolutely. And I think, again, the only place of disappointment for them would probably be that a lot of the talents that we're mentioning,
Yeah,
they didn't carry their form right throughout that Super 8. I'm not
yeah.
expecting them to win all the any game, let alone all the games at the Super 8,
Who
but at
knows
least
what
a
would have
better
happened
fight.
who
If
knows
Monang Patel was available, absolutely. But again, a bit of
more than
better
that.
fight
I think
at that stage.
if Andre's House and Harmeet Singh somehow chased down 28 runs in 2 overs, we might have been having a completely different conversation right now, right? Because as we've always spoke about it on Bagaradda, is momentum takes you really far in cricket, and momentum does a lot of things.
And they were actually taking it home. I mean,
Yeah,
it was
they
super
were
close.
nowhere in that game against South Africa, and that self belief and that kind of assurance that they have that we can still do it was taking them close. But more than that, I think. Do you think I've caught a bit of flack in the last couple of days from some of my friends and stuff because teammates and stuff because I obviously am a big supporter of Harmeet Singh and what Harmeet Singh does, but Harmeet unfortunately got sent by Josh Butler for 5 sixes in an over. Uh, but I mean, skill wise, I think. Do you think it helps U.S. cricket that a lot of these guys will be straight into some of the MLC stuff right after the World Cup?
I think the timing of the MLC this season is almost perfect for them.
Yeah.
They can continue playing, continue utilizing the summer because we know here in North
Hmm.
America you don't get to play cricket all year round.
All
It's
year.
all in the
Yeah.
summer, and
Yeah.
they're able to carry on that momentum right through. And I really hope that we saw that last year as well, but I really hope that in the MLC now the structure does change a bit more to
Yeah.
allow the main focus, the primary focus, to not
Yeah.
be on the overseas signings, but to be on these local players because they're
Exactly.
proven stars now.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the fans that came out to watch the games were cheering for these guys. There were a lot of US supporters in these grounds that you didn't expect to see when you announced this World Cup, or even a month ago before the World Cup even began. You probably didn't expect to see the kind of support that US got in the stands. And I think, I think everyone agrees that if that is the kind of support that US has, these 10, 12, 15, 16 guys that are there as mainstay in the US squad, they should be playing first team cricket in MLC, regardless of what it is.
And do you also give them a bit of leeway and, just the word that we use often is auto choice? Do you make them auto choices at this point for the 2026, or at least until the 2026 T20 World Cup?
There might be some guys that don't go to that World Cup. Right now, if I think about it, I don't think Corey Anderson's going to that World Cup. I doubt Corey Anderson's playing 2026 T20 World Cup.
Maybe not
Especially
Stephen Taylor either.
Steven Taylor is also probably not. Um, Nisarg Patel definitely not. He wasn't even playing in this one. I don't know why they even picked him in the squad. But Nisarg Patel is an episode by itself. Um, what's it called? So yeah, those three guys, I think they're definitely not playing the next one. Netravalkar,
Maybe
maybe,
not.
maybe
His
not.
experience would come in handy in India.
Yeah, yeah, that India experience makes a difference. Um, Jesse Singh, maybe, maybe not. Ali Khan also, maybe, maybe not,
Jahangir,
because he's
highly unlikely.
Jahangir unlikely. I think Monarch, Gauss, Aaron Jones, Nitish all have done enough at this point. Kind of Harmeet, Noshtush, Shadley, they've all done enough, I would say, to have auto choice for 2026, unless next 2 years they are like absolutely out of form. But I think you'll agree. One thing US will really do well is if they can integrate a leg spinner into that squad. I know Yasir Mohammed's there, Zia Shazad's there. There's a couple of other guys that are there. Mohammad Mohsin's probably getting his green card or about to get his green card pretty soon. So yeah, I mean, very good prospect for cricket in US. And once the US market takes off, if ICC stops catering everything to one side of the world, cricket can stop being a dying sport actually.
There is hope, and we saw a lot of that in this World Cup. We'll talk more about that. Just one
Yeah.
last topic I wanted to address for the US before we move to another team.
Mhm.
Would you say that Corey Anderson sort of became a liability towards the end? And that's the biggest disappointment, given that he was the most internationally accomplished player in that squad.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair assessment. Um, Corey didn't do much throughout the World Cup. He pretty much played the whole World Cup based on experience or based on the factor that he was an ex um, full member nation cricketer.
And
Uh,
just to add to that, this man has played the ODI World Cup semi-final where he scored a half century. He's played the ODI World Cup final. He's
yeah,
played the T20 World Cup semi-final. So that
yeah,
experience is invaluable. I mean,
yeah.
even teams like Bangladesh and Afghanistan would love to have that sort of experience in that squad
In
before
that,
the
yeah,
tournament, if you think about it.
yeah. And I think Corey got picked on the squads on the weight of runs he scored in the US in the last 2 3 years since he's moved there. Besides Andres Gauss, he's probably the best player that was there in the country in the last 2 3 years. So it's not like he was just picked because he played for New Zealand back in the day. He actually performed well enough to get picked. Uh, so I think, once you're not bowling as much as he used to, once you're not delivering with the bat as much as people hope, there's always that fastest T20 century tag that always lingers with him until
Fastest
it
ODI
got
century, actually.
ODI century, sorry, that always used to linger with him until it got beaten. But yeah, I think you can see he's put on some weight. He's 36 plus, so it is what it is. I'm glad he got another World Cup in him, and he's enjoyed it, and he's deserved it. Uh, Unfortunate for Gajanand Singh. I think Gajanand Singh really deserved the World Cup. He's also one of the best players for US in the last 18 months or so. Um, and yeah, and I think once Monanka got injured, if they had brought Gajanand Singh into the squad, they would have allowed themselves to make space for Gajanand by dropping Cordy Anderson. But because they didn't do that, and they decided that they were gonna take a chance with Monarch, hopefully getting fit somewhere during the World Cup. It just didn't pan out for them, and unfortunately, they ran out of options because Shayan Jahangir wasn't delivering. Yeah.
Let's talk about the other team. We're not going to go too deep into this because we want you to keep an eye on our Facebook page because
Yeah.
that's where we'll have a more in-depth video on this. We have a lot to talk about, a lot to unpack. But
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about briefly the other team that went winless in the Super 8 stage, Bangladesh. I mean, the biggest disappointment just being the fact that they took it literally. That coming here was our only achievement, and
Yeah.
that's it.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, once your viewpoint, once your goals are so narrow, once your ambition to do something on a greater level just doesn't exist, you're not going to see success. Beating two associates and Sri Lanka in a tournament isn't really success because you should have won the South Africa game. You didn't. You basically almost, I don't know, like looked foolish against Nepal. But then one guy was literally, he just took everything on his back and saved your day and saved everyone's Eid. But forget that from a group stage perspective. I think Super 8s, once you came to Super 8s and once you saw Bangladesh playing against the big boys, it's just same story all over again. Nothing's changed over the years. Against the big boys, they just look like a pushover. People just going all over them. They're just getting sent left, right, and center. And yes, you can say they were still in the mix mathematically for the semi-final spot the last game, but that Bangladesh cricket mindset completely showed on that final game where they were not brave enough to go for that semi-final spot or take a chance, and even then they still ended up losing the game to Afghanistan. And yeah, I mean, you can talk as much as you like on social media, you can talk as much as you like on press conferences, but if you're not walking the talk on the park, then see yourself out, buddy, because you're not doing any favor to anyone.
How disappointing is it when everyone, whoever is playing cricket these days, loves to take that positive, aggressive approach? The relatively smaller teams love to give it all out there on the field, or at least come out better from the previous game. And here, Bangladesh are with 3 overs to go. They still had a mathematical chance to
Yeah.
qualify for that
I mean,
semi-final
38
spot.
runs
They're
in
not
three
even trying.
overs. 38 runs in 3 overs in modern day T20 cricket is nothing.
And the most experienced T20, quote unquote experienced, I have to say, the most quote unquote experienced T20 player is out there blocking Noor Ahmed.
Yeah.
What is that?
I mean, that tells you, right? Like, once your mentality is so narrow, once you literally cannot think with courage. One of the things that I've recently heard on a cricket podcast is the difference between cricketers with a lot of potential who don't end up seeing the success that you earmark them for at a young age versus cricketers with not that much natural talent, but you end up seeing them attain a lot of success throughout their career. The biggest difference is courage. Fear of failure takes you nowhere in cricket, and I can speak about this personally because I played years, not months, years, with fear of failure and worrying about my spot, where I basically became a nobody. To the point now, if you tell me, do I play, I'm not worried if I'm playing the next game, right? Like, I'm happy if I play today and that's it, right? Like, done. That's the kind of attitude Tanzim Hassan Saqib has. He doesn't care what's going to happen tomorrow. But 10 out of those guys in that batting order, they're worried about their spot in the national team for the next game, the next series. And if that's the way you want to play, then so be it. Because play some affiliate membership tournaments or something, and you will win 10 out of 10 games against Uganda and Vanuatu and Malawi or whatever it is that you want to play against. Because unfortunately, like you said, 3 overs, 38 runs, modern day T20 cricket, most teams are doing it. 12 and over. Really? You're telling me you can't get 12 and over?
At least have a swing at it and then fail. We would understand.
No one in this world would have said anything, or more than that, people around this world would have applauded the fact that Bangladesh got out for 80 runs in 8 overs, trying to get to 116 in 12.1 overs. People would have applauded them for showing that courage and having that drive to win a game no matter what. What they chose to do is the cowardly act, and around the world, everywhere, anywhere I go now, people literally ask me, what are Bangladesh doing, man? Do you know how sad it is to hear that? Because these guys have been playing 25 years of international cricket as a full member nation, and we are still the only team in the 17-year history of this T20 World Cup tournament to have not played a semifinal as a full member nation. Like, what have you done?
And this was literally the easiest chance they.
This
Okay,
is
arguably the 2022 chance was also kind of easy, but this one
the
was just handed
2022
to them, literally.
2022 and 2024 is basically the same thing, right? They just had to win the final game. This one was arguably easier to do than than 2022, because this one you were actually given an equation to attain something. Bro, you're telling me you cannot score 10 and over for 12 overs? Travis Head is scoring 100 in like 50 balls.
I'm just going to take this comment and I want to address the fact that is this, or present it to you as a question that has Mahmudullah Riyad again tarnished his reputation permanently, the reputation that he built on the back of the 2023 ODI World Cup.
Yeah, I think once you saw the kind of approach he came out with, you just become a villain straight away, right? Like, uh, because anyone that watches cricket, this is a new generation of people who are watching cricket that are watching people like Ben Stokes literally doing the impossible, right? Like Ben Stokes taking his own country on his back scoring a 90-run partnership with number 11. Ben Stokes from nowhere winning England a World Cup on boundary count. Ben Stokes changing the way Test cricket works around the world, etc., etc. Mahmudullah Riyad has done nothing but harm his reputation as a player, as a senior cricketer, and basically harm his own legacy. Because, I mean, now, if I ask you, do you trust this guy to go out and finish a game for you again after this?
No, no, not a game that's anything above 8 and over. No, heck,
No.
anything above 7 and over.
Seven
No,
or
not
no,
anymore.
no.
I don't. Run a ball with wickets in hand, maybe. I don't know, but 7 and over or more, no, I don't. I'm done.
90%, 99.99% people will not pick him in a squad ever again. That's the reality of it.
And we would have looked at him differently. We were looking at him differently after that Sri Lanka game. We were ready to
100%.
excuse him after that South Africa game, even though that
Yeah,
was technically his fault for the most
yeah,
part.
yeah. You missed two fault tosses in the same over, buddy.
He was missing half volleys against Bartman too, but like again,
Yeah,
we were
yeah,
too fixated on the whole leg by fourth thing.
yeah, exactly. I said it then and I'll say it again right now. Leg by fours, etc., etc., luck factor. 10 runs in the last over you can't chase.
When the bowler is
Six
dishing out full tosses,
full tosses. Half of the over was full tosses.
how are you going to blame the pitch or the New York conditions after that?
The ball didn't even bounce on the pitch for you to lose anything. Like, I'm sorry, but that's the reality of it. And unfortunately, Bangla. We talked about how Corey Anderson became a liability in the U.S. squad by the end of it. Bangladesh is literally carrying passengers. A 15-man squad with like I could say like 10 are probably passengers at this point.
Let's shift the discussion now to a different team because again, we will go
Yeah.
over
Yeah,
Bangladesh
yeah.
more
This will be
extensively because
dished
we have
out
a lot to
completely.
say, by the way. We have a
Yeah,
lot
yeah,
to unpack, a lot of
yeah.
which will be more satisfying to say in Bangla, I'll be honest.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
We'll try not to swear, but no promises. Anyways, moving to Australia now, the way
Yeah.
their campaign just fell off was kind of weird, right?
Um, did you see this coming?
I
And
mean,
like,
I wouldn't say I'm too surprised by the result of, them losing to Afghanistan in favorable conditions for Afghanistan and everything, but I mean, it just felt like their bat, particularly their middle order, just stopped trying at one point. And David Warner, I'm sorry, he did kind of become a liability towards the end, and I think it's for the best that he
I
is
think
retiring now.
this World Cup is one of those World Cups where you can literally create a liability 11 for guys who literally got carried the whole World Cup by the team. Um, I mean, once you looked at the first round, Oman pushed Australia a little in that Australia game, Australia versus Oman game. Sorry. Besides that, their group stage stuff was pretty stock standard for them. Nothing really different. But one thing that really um, was put forward about Australia was the lack of batting time that their middle order and lower middle order had throughout those first 3 4 games. And what you realize is, once head doesn't get going, once Maxwell doesn't get going, then that lower middle order, you can't really expect Stoinis to stand up every day and do it. Stoinis did it twice, but in a 7 8 game tournament, if he's doing 25% of the games, right, like that's probably more than enough from a player like him. You didn't get what you expected out of Tim David. You didn't get what you expected out of Maxwell. um, Wade, same thing.
I mean,
And
Maxwell at least started firing towards the end.
he would
Wade is
wait just
the wicket keeper in that liability 11 that we're gonna play.
11
Because
exactly.
again,
Yeah,
English 100%. I mean, if we switched around the team balance,
yeah,
actually dropped Warner, put English up to open,
mm,
drop Wade and bring in Chris Green.
exactly. Cameron Green.
Cameron Green, sorry.
Yeah,
Chris Green would also be pretty useful in these
my
conditions, but
he would have
that's a
been
discussion
a
we had a long time ago.
long time ago, long time ago. But yeah, no, I would have gone with that 1100%. And Cameron Green, he could open too technically. So um, yeah, I think Australia has an aging team. So I would say this is probably a good time for them to have that kind of a reality check ish, because now is the time you would probably want half of that squad to probably show themselves out, bring in the next gen, your Fraser McGurks, your Xavier Bartlett's. I think Zampa stays, Agar stays, English stays, but some of these other guys, maybe my boy Chris Green gets a call up finally. But yeah, I think this is a chance for Australia to look into next gen, because one thing you also have to remember, these guys that play the World Cup, a lot of them actually don't play a lot of T20 cricket together, which sometimes makes it difficult, because when they have these T20 series and stuff, they always play these other guys, McDermott, Inglis, this, that, etc. And they win all the series. And then when World Cup time comes, they bring these big boys out. But I mean, it doesn't work. Cricket's not that easy, right? Like you can't just show up and start playing randomly one day. So uh, yeah, I mean, what do you think of? I think just the whole thing where they had a lot of rotation going around with their pace bowling attack, um, and they were reluctant to change Warner out of that 11. Do you think that played into kind of where they finished off at the World Cup?
When you have players like Green who have successfully opened in T20Is before, you have English who is a natural opener, especially in the shortest format.
Yeah,
You're not trying them, you're not even considering them just because you've set up two guys who are going to play every game for you.
yeah,
That's you setting yourself up for failure because you're not taking that adoptable, flexible approach which you need in T20Is.
yeah,
Sometimes it works because you remember 2021 T20 World Cup. That's exactly what worked for Australia. They had a fixed opening pair, and that
yeah,
kind of worked. They
yeah,
had the middle order pretty much fixed. They didn't make too many changes all throughout the tournament, and that's
yeah,
exactly what worked for them. And on this
yeah,
occasion, it just didn't. As you
no,
said, it's an aging problem, and sometimes
yeah,
when players do not find form and you still keep persisting with them, it's not always going to work out. Back then, it worked out because everyone was covering for each other. Mitch Marsh, who was the
yes,
man in form all throughout 2021, lost his
yeah,
form,
yeah,
found runs in the final. That's it. That's all you
yes,
need, right? If your
yeah,
team is taking you to the final and then you become the man of the final, that's it. That's more than enough.
yeah, yeah,
So all that said, Australia have realized that this is not it's never going to be as easy, and we have to remember that if we start ranking the teams which have been the most consistent all throughout T20 World Cups, Australia probably don't even make the top 4 or top 5.
no,
You have to
no,
consider Pakistan,
yeah,
India, England, West
yeah,
Indies, Sri Lanka. All these teams have done well all throughout the
yeah,
years.
yeah,
Some of them have struggled in between here and there, but so have Australia.
yeah.
So you have to remember that
Australia,
this
yeah,
format
Australia.
doesn't come
They,
as easily to them.
they get lucky with some Bangladesh and all these other teams in there that they get to face. And technically, England also didn't have a massively successful campaign this year, because even they, if that first match did happen, we might have been having a different conversation. That England Scotland game, if that saw a full result. But we'll get to that. But I was gonna ask you the other question about Australia is, do you feel like that top order now with Fraser McGurk or Inglis, whoever comes in, they're a little too confused. They're a little too attacking, but also confused about what their role is in that top order because you have Head who will always keep going for it, right? He might get out for his ball, he might get out 50th ball, but if he gets out 50th ball, he might have scored 80 runs by then. Fraser McGurk, same thing, basically, just a right handed version of it. And Mitch Marsh, he's basically on a mantra that he's making up for lost time in international cricket right now. So he's just gonna play whatever he plays. So is it too many similar players in that top cluster?
I think Inglis is one player who can adapt, and as you said, a
Yeah.
lot of players won't be playing T20 series regularly, and I think Travis Head is the first on that list because he's
Yes.
an absolute regular in both the Test and ODI side. With the
Yeah.
Champions Trophy coming next, they're going
Yeah.
to start focusing on ODIs again.
Yeah.
World Test Championship is always there for Australia. They're always in the reckoning, so that's there as well. So
Yeah.
with those things in mind, I don't think Head will be playing T20Is all that frequently.
No.
Rather, with the next tournament, actually their biggest advantage is the fact that the next tournament is co-hosted by India. It's India and Sri Lanka, and of course the Australian players have a lot of experience with the IPL. Head will definitely be playing 2 months of cricket in India thanks to the
India.
IPL.
Yeah.
So the one advantage that they will absolutely get is even if he doesn't play
Yeah.
T20Is all the way until 2026, let's say he starts playing them again at the start of 2026. That's an exaggeration. I'm not saying that'll
Yeah.
happen. But
Yeah.
even if that happens, he will still have a lot of T20 game time in India
In
in those
India.
conditions. And
Yes.
that'll
Yeah.
hugely benefit him.
Yeah.
And Travis Head, because he's still on, I don't want to say younger side, but he's not all that old either. He can adjust to these things.
Yeah.
Players like Warner, they can't anymore. Even Marsh is struggling to do that. Marsh is, I mean, he's not exactly young in that sense that, he played
Yeah.
the under 19s all the way back in 2010.
Yeah.
Same batch as KL Rahul or Saurav Netravalkar now, who's very
Mm.
relevant. Or
Mm-hmm.
for that matter, Joss Butler and Ben Stokes, one of whom have basically retired from a white ball cricket.
Yeah.
So all that said, Mitch Marsh is not exactly as young as some people think, and that's why I don't even think that he should be considered for captaincy automatically
Yeah.
without performing, without
Yeah.
showing the captaincy mettle for the 2026
Yeah.
T20 World Cup.
Yeah.
So captaincy might be a concern as well. Their performances might be a concern as well, but they do have the young talents.
Yeah.
I think those young talents are ready. JFM is right there now. They need to allow Ellis to be the lead bowler in
Oh,
T20s. I
100%.
don't think it's
100.
fair what they're doing right now.
No. No. He's not an understudy.
No, no, no.
He's not an understudy. He's way more than, yeah. I
And
agree.
Behrendorff, the whole thing is Behrendorff was their go-to T20 guy, so that's a bit unfortunate that he got
That he,
injured the way
yeah.
he did. But even
Yeah.
if he played, there's no guarantee that he wouldn't be dropped for the big three, right? The way
Yeah.
they structure their team these days. So you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. No, 100%. I agree with you on that straight up. And,
Which team do we go for next? Let's do West Indies then.
yeah,
That's
we'll
the
do
only
West
team
Indies.
that's left who didn't
Yeah.
qualify for the semifinals. So
Yeah.
again, hosts,
Only
favorites.
who
Yeah.
else? No, there's
No,
one
no, we're
more.
done. We're done with that. After that, it's the two semifinalists, Afghanistan and England.
Where
We
we've
finished
done
Bangladesh. We finished
USA,
USA, Australia, and
Australia.
now West Indies. That's four. Four out of the
Oh,
Super 8.
right, right. Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah.
India, South
Sorry.
Africa come last, so that's
Kamlas.
okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, this was the World Cup. I thought they had it. They had the squad. They had the results. Everything was going their way. It was home conditions. They they pretty much looked like the team to beat throughout, and just that one loss messed them up.
I'll tell you which one moment for me was the end of their campaign. It actually came very late in that South Africa game. It was the Andre Russell run out. For me, that
Yes,
was it. I saw
yeah,
it and I said, "Oh, that's it. They're
yeah,
done."
Yeah,
West Indies
yeah.
are out of the World Cup.
Russell was on
Russell
song.
one song, he would have won it that day. He would have
Yeah,
scored an extra 40 runs. Like we have seen
yeah,
this verse. This was like
yeah,
peak KKR Russell, by the
yeah,
way.
yeah.
We've seen this before.
I agree 100%. Even when I saw that run out, I was like, ah,
You could see from his reaction, like
that's
this is it.
just. And cricket is moments. Cricket is a moments game. You seize a moment like that, it sets you up so much more. Um,
It wasn't a smart decision to begin
no,
with. Like if you
no.
think Akil Hussain is not good enough to retain the strike, you shouldn't have given him the strike in the first place.
Strike
Like,
in the
yo, come
first
on, man.
place, exactly, exactly. But Akil is actually not a bad batter.
No, he's not. And they use him as a float. They promote him all
Yeah,
the way up to 3 and 4 even sometimes.
yeah, yeah. So you know, to run like that
When
almost
there isn't a
mindlessly,
single,
almost mindlessly when there's, it's okay. It is what it is. But yeah, I feel for West Indies. I think this squad in itself thought they were gonna go the whole way. They truly believed it. I 100% side with that, and I think they had every reason to believe it. It's an exceptional T20 squad. Um, I think if they got over the line that South Africa game, I'm positive they would be playing the final tomorrow, without a doubt. But you know, once you come to the back end of the tournament, it's really a moment's thing, right? And unfortunately, it wasn't theirs.
another thing just wanted to point out, uh, they fell short of a leg spinner. And every team, including Bangladesh, funnily enough, again, we will, eyes on our Facebook page, we will talk a lot about Rishad Hussain over there.
Yeah,
But every team
yeah,
tried to have a leg spinner at hand. Of course, USA couldn't, but again, USA performed better than expected already, so there's not much
yeah,
to say. Teams love to have wrist spinners on hand because they make a difference on these sort of wickets.
yeah,
Is it the fact that, Gudakesh Moti wasn't exactly stouted as the biggest T20 prodigy, let's say? He does play for the test team as well. He's an all format bowler. He's useful sometimes he's not exactly at his best. Same with Akil Hussain is a power play enforcer. He's a bit different, of course, from Gudakesh Moti.
yeah,
He takes up
yeah,
that Samuel Badri type of role. And
yeah,
that's fine. Samuel Badri, despite being a wrist spinner, never had the traditional wrist spinner role. So again,
no, yeah,
that's a like for like right there. But
yeah.
there's one name that I'm going to mention. Do you think his absence, him not growing into the cricketer they expected him to become, made a big difference? That name being Hayden Walsh Jr.
But I think they ran him short. Once you become CPL Player of the Year,
At
once
18, I think.
and he was basically performing exceptionally well right after that for another 2 years. And as a leg spinner, you have bad games. So for him to not have a bad game for almost 2 years was exceptional. For him to have a bad season, I would have taken it because he's basically given you unconditional service for 2 years coming from US. You didn't even know about this guy before he was playing for US, and then you saw him and you're like, wait, he's a local, I'm taking him away. They played him in the series prior to the World Cup. He took maybe 4 wickets in 2 games. Pretty good, in my opinion. It was against South Africa.
But it was a bit too late because neither South Africa nor West Indies were going to let that
Good.
series decide their squad.
I know. But I think if you're not gonna go with Yannick Correa, which was pretty much
Understandable, to be honest.
understandable after he had played his first series, that okay, he's not there.
Doesn't
You know,
belong.
it doesn't belong, right? I saw that series. I was like, never mind. It's an eye test thing, right? Like once you see a player play international cricket, you can tell they're probably good enough to play any local cricket, but it's just not there, and that's okay. Hayden Walsh is playing Vitality T20 Blast while West Indies lacked a leg spinner. So it's not like he's not in demand. He's clearly in demand. People are wanting him out there. So I think West Indies missed a trick because we we longed for a leg spinner for a while. To now have one actually feels good, but I think if they just stuck with him a little bit, just gave him that freedom, I think they would have just reaped those rewards right now, like you said.
And I don't think it's as much about Hayden Walsh Jr. or even having a wrist spinner specifically. It's more about having that good option of a white ball specialist spinner,
Mm,
particularly specializing in
mm,
T20s, and
mm.
then you just let him go. You let him go in favor of a three format bowler who's sometimes good in the middle. That's it.
Yes, yes. And once Roston Chase started bowling the way he did, you actually didn't need Moti anymore.
The problem is, you play that specialist left arm spinner, you're going to
Yeah,
give him the ball before you do chase.
did Chase exactly? Yeah. So uh, because Chase just started having more impact than him, and he was getting right-handers out, which I am glad West Indies brought this back into the world. Off spinner can get a right-hander out. It's not rocket science, right? Like people like Bangladesh, they think that it's impossible. It's not possible. Roston Chase did it for fun at the World Cup. So I hope that shuts up a lot of these people. But more than that, like you said, you have a three-format bowler. He's very much like a Veerasamy Parmal from back in the day, where you're trying to fit that one guy into all formats. But it doesn't have to be the case. Cricket's moved on, where you can have like those specialists for each format, right? And like you said, Hayden Walsh was probably the perfect specialist for at least T20s, even if you don't trust him to bowl 10 overs. Um, I think he's shown enough to say you can trust him with 4 overs. So the other one I was going to ask you about was the selection of Johnson Charles. Was it a bit kind of emotional and a throwback kind of a call, and one that didn't work out and kind of hurt them more once Brandon Kick got injured?
Emotional call, and he's the guy who's been there, done that, and you want to hold on to that. Other than
Yeah,
Andre Russell, there's no one left from that OG 2012 to 2016 squad.
six
And
squad.
he's one man who again wasn't at his best during that time, but he was there. He was
Yeah,
around.
yeah,
And to have him now feels like a blessing of sorts in many
yeah,
ways. You
yeah,
have that experience, and but this didn't work. And the fact that Kyle Mayers was not even part of the 15-man squad initially, when you had these two guys locked into open, I
yeah,
think that was also a very risky call. You had
yeah,
other guys who could go up and open, sure,
yeah,
but to completely exclude Kyle Mayers and say we're gonna go with the very experienced but also kind of past his prime Johnson
Johnson
Charles,
Charles. Yeah,
it was always going to be a risky move, and it didn't
yeah,
work out exactly well
yeah.
for
They
them.
had to drop him by the end, right?
They
Because
had to.
Shy Hope and Mayers were opening the
You remember
batting.
Shai Hope wasn't opening in any of the games. He was coming out around 4 or 5
Three,
in the
four,
Australia series.
5. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. I think once Brandon Kick got injured, it was a question of who should we try, right? Like Johnson Charles was there, so they just kept him, and then they gave Shai Hope a game because he's already been with the squad. He obviously did well, but
It wasn't a bad move. It's just it's
yeah,
a move that they had to make because they had no
we
other option.
had no options. Yeah, it's like a circumstantial choice that you kind of have to do. And same with Mayers, right? He had to play because Charles was just absurdly bad, right? So
And I think it did Mears' confidence a lot of harm. First, the West Indies snub him, and then Lucknow bench him for the entire season. It just both those
especially on
things
the
come
back of how
together.
he performed last year, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
It's
is useful with both bat and ball, and you just
Yeah.
throw that option out of the window. I don't think I don't think from West Indies perspective that was the best option, given that they had Andre Russell bowling with the new ball. So that
Yeah.
means they had that option open for an
Yeah.
all-rounder to take on that new
The
ball
new
attack,
ball out.
which
Yeah.
Kyle Mayers could have done
Yeah.
amazingly well
And he
if
was
given
doing it
that
well.
option.
Exactly. Yeah.
I think we've covered West Indies pretty much, and now the two semifinalists. The two semifinalists that got knocked out in the top four. Let's start with Afghanistan. Positives first, making it through that very difficult Super 8 group.
Well deserved. They played out of their skin. Um, you might hate them for the theatrics they pulled in that Bangladesh game, and I think everyone has the right to, because there is no space for things like that in cricket. Uh, you know, you are winning. It's looking like that, right? But
The coach is
anyways,
asking you to slow the game
slow
down.
the
He's
game.
not asking you to literally drop on your knees, man. Come
Knees,
on.
exactly. Come on, right? Like, yeah, slowing the game down. When we talk about slowing the game down, three guys go up to the polar, have a chat, talk about, you know, those are very good time wasting techniques. Acting like you've been shot on your hamstring is not a good time wasting technique. But in any case, I think no, they played exceptionally well. They had Australia in November 2023, but then the beast of Glenn Maxwell showed up. They also dropped him three times. Don't forget that. So
It was also
uh,
fitting that was Maxwell who was performing again.
again, and Maxwell got a 50 again. But I think you have to give a lot of the credit to Ibrahim Zadran and Rahmanullah Gurbaz. They basically carried that batting lineup on their back, and when they couldn't, that lineup faltered. But all in all, I think for a team that was playing Division 5 cricket 14 years ago to be playing semi-finals of T20 World Cup on their own terms, they didn't have to wait on on a result from someone else. They did it themselves. They won a game they had no business winning against Bangladesh. They won a game against Australia on sheer fight. They probably could have won the first game too if they played a little better, if they executed a little better. But it didn't look like that the whole day. It just
And
it's
it's
ifs
also a
and
no
buts.
harm, no foul kind of
No,
situation because it
yeah,
wouldn't have changed anything.
change
They would have still
anything.
been in the same grouping and same
Same,
semi-final
same
match.
final. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't change anything. But more than that, they have shown world cricket exactly what world cricket had been thinking about last 2 3 editions, that Afghanistan are here, Afghanistan mean business, Afghanistan are here to play, and especially in T20 cricket, Afghanistan is here. We have seen that this tournament, unfortunately, that experience factor in the important game hurt them in that semi-final. But what do you think is the biggest plus point for Afghanistan out of this campaign, or the biggest takeaway for them as a whole?
I'm not going to go too much into batting, bowling, or fielding because, again, we knew these things. We know that their
Yeah,
batting
no,
is
no,
kind of
yeah,
unstable after their opening pair. We know that their
yeah,
fielding has improved a lot,
yeah.
drastically over the
Since
years.
the
We know
days
that
of
their
Nauros
bowling has
Mangal.
absolutely. We know that their bowling has always been good. We know that Jonathan
Mm,
Trott has always done a great job as head coach. We know
mhm,
what Dwayne Bravo is capable of, and we know that they're very smart when they hire these mentors. First
mm.
Ajay Jadeja in India, now Dwayne Bravo in West Indies. All these things we
They know
know.
what they're doing. Yeah, yeah.
What I will say is that their biggest takeaway is they have 100% proven the fact that every tournament they play, they learn, they adopt, and they come out better the next time. That's
Yes.
why I'm not
Yeah,
delving too much into their batting because I know for a fact after this they're going to be a significantly better batting team come
yeah,
Champions Trophy 2025. Better conditions, of course, for batting, but
yeah.
they will
But
be
it
beastly good.
will be there, exactly, exactly. And one thing I really like about the Afghanistan lineup is the flexibility of guys. No egos, No hard feelings. Why am I batting three? Why am I batting four? Why am I batting seven? Why am whoever gets asked to bat whenever is going out there to do a job, to put their best foot forward. And I think that is the best way you can play T20 cricket is you should be ready to go out whenever you're asked to go out. There is no number. Numbers mean very less. Outside opening and maybe number three, numbers mean very less in T20 cricket. You only have 120 balls. And whoever can make the best use of 50 balls in that lineup and get a score for himself and his team's winning 90% of the days.
See, that's the funny thing. They have one of the most successful opening pairs in world cricket right now, at least in white ball cricket right now. And they decide to actually change that just to slot Zazai in.
Hazratullah is in.
No, look,
Exactly.
for me, I would have slotted Zazai at three and said, okay, they need a number three, so it's
Yeah.
best if Zazai bats at three. Zazai has the experience. He's
Yeah.
not doing all that well, so technically he could struggle against new ball bowlers like Arshdeep or Bumrah, whatever. For
Hmm.
whatever reason, they could have made that change differently. But what's important is, as you said, there's no ego issue.
No.
Ibrahim is not going to take it personally that him as a successful opener is being dropped out number three.
Yeah.
That's not how he looks at it.
No. And I have seen this, like this is on a very smaller scale, but the Afghani guys we play with here, now that I have exposure to some of these guys that have played, good level of cricket in Afghanistan, or some that have played domestic cricket in Afghanistan, man, they do not care what the captain asks them to do. If the captain tells them, go and lay down on the highway for me, and I think that will win us the game, they will do it. If they think if one guy thinks I should go and open the batting today and I think I can win it for the team, he will go and tell the captain, I think I should open the batting, I think I can win it for the team. That's the kind of mindset they have. And when you come from the environments that they come from, to have that mindset, to have that no fear, no holds barred kind of an attitude, speaks volumes about the exact success they're seeing right now. Because, I mean, let's think about 2014 T20 World Cup, Farhad Reza versus Mohammad Shahzad, to Tanzim Hassan Saqib versus Ibrahim Zadran. How much has that? Just think about it. Like, we've gone from Farhad Reza to Tanzim Hassan Saqib, which is a massive, massive upgrade by all means. And you think of Mohammad Shahzad, he was an exceptional player in his own right at that time. But
He's,
now you
he's a
think
big
about
reason of where Afghanistan cricket are
Afghanistan
today.
cricket,
We cannot
exactly.
forget that.
We cannot forget that. But think about the impact Ibrahim Zadran will have for the next 10, 12, 15 years, maybe, in international cricket. And the impact he's already had in Afghanistan cricket. It's massive.
If anything, his impact is least seen in this
Seen.
shortest format.
Yes. Yes.
It
Yes.
gets exponentially higher the more we
The
delve into the other two formats.
other two formats. Yeah, exactly. And kid's still young, right? So by all means, right? And uh, I know some guys who played in the T20 World Cup against him, and they said, man, he looks like he's like 10 times better than everyone else. But I mean, what did you think of the semifinal?
It's a bit too disappointing. Look, I
Yeah.
I
I
won't take
thought
it
I
with
thought their
bias,
best
but
chance was I thought their best chance was batting first, but I didn't know the pitch was gonna be like that.
it wasn't even the pitch, to be honest. It
I
was
think yeah, it was. I think a lot of it
partly to
was
do with them as
false
well.
shots too. Yeah, yeah,
False
yeah,
shots, and they genuinely looked a little too nervous. I mean, again, it's becoming a bit too cliched that the opening pair breaks and that's it. That's suddenly it for them. It's
yeah,
maybe they should have stocked up a bit more. Maybe for the big game, they should have dared to make one change and bring in Najibullah Zadran. I know he's been
yeah,
underwhelming
yeah,
for a
yeah,
while now, but just bring that specialist batter into the middle.
yeah,
You need that rather than
yeah.
have stocking yourself with that many bowling options, which you realistically don't
Yes,
need.
yeah.
Maybe
And
they would
and
have been better off dropping Karoti just for that semifinal.
and because you've mentioned that, if you pack so many bowlers in and you won the toss, why not bowl first?
No, I get it. They want those bowlers to be an option when they are defending under pressure. That's exactly what they did against Australia and Bangladesh. So that
Right,
much I get.
right.
But you also need
Okay.
runs on board. And all
Yeah.
those not bowlers, all those bowling all rounders are capable of getting you runs. But they're still all, other than
All.
Mohammad Nabi,
Yeah.
all of them are bowling all rounders. And Mohammad Nabi
Yes.
is not even the most consistent batters. So you're just not leaving yourself with enough. Get that specialist batter in the middle. Get Najibullah. Throw him in there. Just get something out of him. I think that would have been better, honestly.
I just wish they just had a bit more fight in that semifinal. It's like, but I
I
mean,
think
you can
someone
say that
pointed
about
out
the
that
England game too.
yeah, we're going to get
Yeah,
into the England game. There's a lot
yeah,
more to unpack, and we're going to be much more
yeah,
harsh with England, obviously.
yeah, yeah,
But again, with Afghanistan, I think someone said that it could also be the fact that they were a bit. I think by then they were a bit emotionally drained, and I'm not making excuses for them. They're professional athletes,
yeah,
after all. But again, they literally had to give it everything to make it to that semifinal spot. And sometimes you, as a cricketer, know this better than I do, but sometimes it just drains you out completely
yeah,
emotionally, and you're not left with much. And that's why I think I don't want to be too harsh. It was the first time, and it was
yeah,
still a miraculous journey. Like, think about it this way:
yeah.
no one would have written them as favorites to come out of that initial group
Initial group,
with West
exactly.
Indies and New Zealand. Forget
Yeah,
Uganda and Papua New
yeah,
Guinea; they were never
yeah,
going to win a game.
yeah.
But
But it
the
was
other two,
New Zealand. You probably 9 out of 10 times expect them to make it to the next round in every
they
tournament,
always
right?
do. They
Yeah, they
always do.
always
And
do.
there's a reason they were seeded. They were both
Yeah,
seeded.
they were both seeded. And but for Afghanistan to have the statement game they had, first game of this tournament, for their as their first game, I mean, they showed it that they're here. They mean business, right? And it's not like they're here to be pushed around anymore. And they play a lot of T20 franchise cricket. You have to remember a lot of these guys, so they're picking up important stuff. When Tristan Stubbs says Kuldeep Yadav doesn't want to bowl to him in DC nets during the IPL. Well, there's a reason Kuldeep Yadav doesn't want to bowl to him.
And that
There's
reason is
gonna,
coming to fruition in just a
yeah,
few hours.
yeah, exactly. Well, you're gonna start seeing Afghanistan bowlers start saying, "I'm not gonna bowl to this guy in the nets because I know I'm facing him 6 months later in somewhere, and I need to know what I need to bowl to him." And they have every right to do that because now they've played a World Cup semi-final, buddy. So, yeah,
And I think a good thing is they're not going to lose players to these franchise leagues, which was
yep,
happening. You think
yeah.
Gas Ahmed,
Mm. Mm.
you think Zahir Khan. It was happening actually. It was a real
Yeah,
concern, and
yeah,
now I think they're done with that concern.
yeah.
So overall,
They're
it's
not.
a
They're
very
not
good
worried
thing.
about those two guys anymore.
No. They're not worried about losing cricketers in general.
Cricketers,
It could be
yes, yeah,
anyone for that
yeah,
matter.
yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
they're worried
They're,
about
they're, they're not. They're not stressed about it.
it. So overall, just positives now for Afghanistan. I know they could have
Hmm.
done better, but realistically, the way South Africa batted and the kind of intent South Africa showed, we're going to delve more into South Africa, of course, in just a few more minutes. But
I wish
everything,
they reviewed it. I
which
wish
one?
Rashid Khan reviewed that. Nick.
I don't think it would have made a big difference, if I'm
It
being
wouldn't have. It wouldn't
honest.
have.
Wouldn't have.
But South
Hendricks wasn't
Africa.
in the best of form anyway. Him getting out, I don't think it would
No, no, it
affect
was
all that
Markram.
much.
It was Markram.
Who's Markham? Oh, sorry. Again,
Yeah, yeah.
not someone who was in the
Not
best of
not
form,
some
but he
best
performed
of
well
fun.
that day. So
Yeah,
that
yeah,
counts. That
yeah, yeah,
obviously counts.
yeah.
But again, overall, don't want to be too harsh on Afghanistan because maybe if they scored another 50 or 60 more runs, they would have still lost a very one-sided game.
Exactly.
That was always
Yeah,
possible.
yeah. 100%.
So overall, good going Afghanistan. England, not so much good going because again, they got lucky with the group stage. They looked completely different in that first game of the Super 8s against West Indies.
Yeah,
Kind of fell off against South Africa when they had a very good chance, but that's
yeah.
okay. They made up for it against USA. And then I don't know what happened in that semifinal. I just don't know how they suddenly forgot how to play spin. These spinners they've been playing in the IPL, by the way.
Um, what should I even say? Like, it looked comical at one point, the way they were losing their wickets. It almost seemed like everyone wanted to go home and they were just throwing their wickets away. Everyone looked like they had an appointment at 8 p.m. that they needed to get to. You're chasing 172, given they've probably given up 15 to 20 runs more at that point. Rashid's full tosses, etc. Um, but more than that, to come out and not even apply yourself just a little bit in a World Cup semifinal, guys getting out trying to slog Bumrah to mid wicket when you know he's gonna get a tail in to you. Um, Akshar Patel basically taking wickets for fun against these guys. Uh, Harry Brook plays one reverse sweep, looks really good, goes for four. Next ball, tries the same shot again against a bowler of good quality in Kuldeep Yadav. So a lot of amateur cricket, a lot of immature cricket, a lot of immature approach from England,
And
I
that
would say.
last one that you mentioned for Harry Brook, it was completely premeditated.
Yeah,
I don't know
completely.
why.
Yeah, completely premeditated.
You had one
He,
good shot execution. Why would you think that Kuldeep
and
Yadav
you're the
would let
last recognized batter at that point. Why? You took one risk in the over. It paid off. You've got the boundary for the over. Keep knocking it around. If a bad ball comes your way, then take chance. It's pathetic because yeah, I mean they've run themselves short. I personally don't like Matthew Mott as a coach. I always thought he was quite lucky with the squads he got. That 2022 squad he had, which went all the way in Australia, uh, was just a really good squad in their own right. Uh, and it and I think the squad right now, Bairstow not delivering, Moin Ali not delivering, Jordan there and thereabouts. He had a really good game against, who was it against that he got 4 wickets? Or he got a hat trick.
Jordan. He
Jordan,
got a hat trick and he had a wicket in the first ball of the over. So it wasn't a four trick, but it was 4 wickets in that
4 wickets.
over. It was against the USA.
USA. Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. They were 117 for 7 and then you got them. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I think England, just like some of the other teams we mentioned before, they got some passengers in that squad that will have played their last ICC tournament, or at least a T20 World Cup tournament for that matter. And my question to you is, what is the role of Sam Curran, the man of the tournament 18, 20 months ago?
His bowling has completely fallen off since then. We've seen it that in both internationals and the IPL and anywhere else he plays, basically. His
Yeah,
bowling has fallen off. His batting doesn't offer too much, especially not if he's batting down at number 6 or 7. Genuinely doesn't have too much to offer. In these conditions, even less so.
yeah.
Overall, he's not left with much. I still think he does justify somewhat of a place in that side because he can argue that he's giving you something with the bat, with the ball on the field, but
The
the thing
utility
is
player.
the utility player, but the lack of specialization, in a weird way, you kind of get why Owen Morgan used to back Sam Curran's brother, Tom Curran, because with Tom Curran, his batting is not up there. On most days, his bowling is not as good as his younger brother, but you get that specialization and you know what you're getting.
Yes, yeah.
That's the biggest strength. That's the only reason why Tom Curran was back for so many years, and that's why he's part of that uh, ODI World Cup winning
Yeah,
team.
he has a medal, man. He
He has
has
a
a medal.
medal. Didn't play a game, whatever, but he has a medal.
Yeah, yeah.
What color is Sam Curran's ODI World Cup medal? He only has the T20 World Cup one with the
uh,
shiny player of the tournament award.
yeah, but Adil Rashid was really good throughout
As
the
always,
tournament,
literally as always.
as
They
always.
tried to get Rehan Ahmed to kind of replace him. I felt, but it just doesn't work
It
anymore.
just, Adil Rashid's got the experience. Don't forget. Bairstow, what do they do with him?
I don't know. Turn him into the next king after William. I mean, with Bairstow, they don't drop him, so you might as well just promote him up to a position
They
that's
will
above any other
never.
cricketer.
Bears 2 is Bangladesh. Bears 2 to England cricket is what Leighton Das is to Bangladesh cricket. Never dropped.
Never drop. They'll give him different roles, and sometimes he will
Yes.
actually adjust and adopt to
Sometimes,
those
yeah,
roles.
yeah, just randomly out of the blue, play this amazing knock that will let everyone sit up and be like, "Wow, this guy is amazing." All right, let's
They
give him
turned him
10
into
more
a
games.
number four just to justify his selection, when they could have gone with someone like Ben Duckett
Yeah,
for that
and
same position.
and and Bear still scored all his runs opening the batting in T20 cricket, not batting it for. So
It
what
worked
is
in
that?
one or two innings, I think, the
Yeah,
whole
but
Bairstow at fourth thing, but it was never going to be a long term reliable option
no.
anyway. And again, it didn't need to be a long term option. They needed the likes of Harry Brook to back him up better. They need more from Moeen Ali. I think Moeen Ali's done. I
Yeah,
think
Moinali is
this
done.
was absolutely shambolic. Him not bowling a single over and then getting out the way he did in that semi-final. I know someone was talking about how he is a better player of spin than that. Of course, he's not supposed to get out like that. But that day, it didn't look like even if he didn't get
Even
out, he would
yeah,
contribute all that much. I know
yeah.
he did once have a very good record against Kuldeep Yadav. I guarantee you on that day, if he faced a few more, I don't think he faced Kuldeep Yadav at all. But if he did, I don't think he would have
He
done
would have been gone through the gate.
gone through the gate.
Moin's upside is high, but that upside's died down.
Right down. And you have to remember that age is not exactly on his side. He's the same age as Shakib, Angelo Matthews,
Yeah,
Rohit Sharma. Rohit Sharma is the only one of the three that I mentioned who's actually performing. So I don't know, not exactly helping.
yeah. I mean, this guy. What's his name? Chris Jordan, Moin Ali, uh, Johnny
Jordan may still
Bairstow.
actually have a role to play in T20s.
Yeah,
I
he.
kind of feel like he will still find a way to keep himself relevant in
What about
just the
top?
shortest
All
format.
right, last one, Top Lee.
Top Lee. Expected better from him. Definitely expected better from him. He was the lead pacer. I
My
think
boy,
he did pretty
my
well
boy
last year in
Nitish
the ODI
Kumar
World
gave it
Cup.
to him,
But
bro.
yeah, absolutely.
Nitish Kumar exposed him.
Right, that's the funny thing. I expected more from him this year than I did last year. Last year, he actually performed well in that ODI
Yeah,
World Cup, taking that lead bowler role. I was like, okay, he is a very injury-prone bowler from time to time, like a lot of these English pacers are. So it's actually a good thing that this is the shortest format. He won't have too much to do. Sometimes he won't even need to bowl his full quota of 4 overs, which is great for him.
yeah,
All that said, I don't think he did that well. I think someone like Jansen who comes in and only delivers with the new ball, he literally has to do nothing else in the rest of the game. It's
nothing.
not like he's
Yeah,
bowling poorly. He doesn't have to do anything.
no,
That's the luxury which Topley had, but he couldn't utilize.
utilize it. Yeah, 100%.
He partly did in against the smaller teams, but other than that, no, not
World Cups
much.
aren't won against the smaller teams. That's the real deal.
Now our finalists. Who do you want to start with?
Um,
Both unbeaten, by the way.
we can start with, I think, India. I mean, this is India's home tournament. End of the day, India plays when they want. India does whatever they want.
But also at the same time, surprisingly quiet. No massive buzz around.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
that's a good thing for most Indian
yeah.
fans.
I think they wanna just keep it simple. They don't wanna get carried away, given what happened in 2023 when it was laid out for India to win. If they didn't win, it was gonna be a bigger issue. But I think it's the first time maybe I've seen Indians handle a loss really well because everyone applauded what the team had done till then in the tournament in 2023, and they took the final as an off day. But yeah, I mean, massive. India's. I think the problem that India will continue to face is the off-field antics some of their office bearers keep pushing for. Um just overshadows the kind of performance you see on the field. You look at people like Aksar Patel, Kuldeep Yadav. They're bowling so well. They're doing the role that is exactly needed from them in a T20 setting, and they're doing it at a very high level. But they won't get that recognition because it's just the nature of how some of these things work, right? Uh, but yeah, I think this is India's tournament to win. If they don't now, then when?
In a weird way, won't it be poetic if Virat Kohli again I'm not saying I want that to happen, but he
Part
again
part
underperforms
of
in the
the
final,
yeah
but then still India go on to win. Virat Kohli is carried by the team, the very team that he carried in
carried.
multiple T20 World Cups before
Yeah,
this.
this time they carried him. Uh, yeah, I mean I see it happening. Virat and Rohit front desk standing with the trophy, with the whole team cheering behind them. I can see it happening. Um, I'm sure Markram will love to change that, but let's see how much is really in his hands.
A bit more on India. Unchanged 11 most likely, right?
Unchanged 11, I think once you've played the tournament with all these guys, Shivam Dubey, you can say should he have been dropped after first two games? Tough because that middle game got rained out.
And he
So
did actually perform in some difficult situations, which no
yeah,
one was expecting
no
him
one
to in
was
New York. No
exact.
one was
No
expecting
one
him to.
yeah. So um, he just had what you call a floating role, kind of, where if the team faltered, he was kind of expected to go and guide the ship around while other guys came and kept attacking. Whereas in some of these other games, he had a role to put the pressure back on and try to score some runs. And yeah, I think he'll be the first one to accept that he didn't really light the world on fire, but he might light it up tomorrow. Who knows?
Onus on him to take on Shamsi tomorrow.
I would say so. I think so. Long levers, turns both ways. With his reach, he can cover for both turns. A lot of smaller batters, or a lot of 5'10", 5'11" feet kind of batters, or even your 6 feet guys might not reach to it. But with Dubé, you get the long levers and you get that big range. So even if he's turning it massive, which Shamsi does sometimes, he still has that reach and the power to extend it. Um, I would say if India lose a wicket after the power play and Pant comes in and then they lose another one, I'm sending Shivam Dubé, telling him to tee off.
I can already imagine anything overpitched by Shamsi. Doesn't matter whether
He
he's turning
doesn't.
or not. Doesn't
No,
matter whether it's
it's
outside
just
off stump or
going.
not. It's going over
It's
wide
just
long on. Same
yeah,
direction
yeah,
every time.
yeah. Every time, every
He hits it anywhere else, it's probably a miscue.
time.
No, but from India's perspective, again, Jasprit Bumrah has been literally unplayable. But the bigger problem that I was again talking about this during the Super 8 stage. See, with Jasprit Bumrah, you can say, okay, it's that whole 2014 KKR mindset where you say, okay, we have 4 overs here which are unplayable, and we're not going to bother with these 4 overs. We're going to write them off as a 14, 15 run or 16 run at max, and
Yeah,
then try and target the other bowlers. That doesn't work anymore because A, all the other bowlers are doing really well, but on the other hand, it's Kuldeep Yadav who is
yeah.
becoming just as deadly, if not
Deadly.
more.
Yeah, exactly.
How frightening is that for South Africa to have, Jasprit Bumrah handle both the new ball and the death, and then Kuldeep Yadav in the middle? That's it. That's the game right there.
The three things they will be worried about is that Bumrah Yorker tailing in, the Bumrah hard length, because that does things that no one else can make happen for some reason, and the team India bowling group plan. If their plan is We're not gonna let Bumrah be the main character. We're just gonna have everyone bowl around him. India is dangerous because Bumrah is always bowling an over. Somewhere in a 4 to 5 over period, he's always bowling an over.
And it really helps. I am not saying that Kohli didn't use him properly. Kohli always did. Dhoni did too before that. But the fact that uh, he was kind of groomed up by this whole
By
Mumbai Indians setup, it
yeah,
just makes Rohit the perfect captain for Jasprit Bumrah.
exactly. And he knows how to handle the guy, right? He's been there, he's done that. So those personal things that he might not be able to share with the wider group right now, he's there, man. And that's how it happens.
So someone made a joke about how the whole Rajasthan Royals setup is there to carry drinks because it's Yashasvi Jaiswal,
Sanju
it's
Samson.
Anju Samson, it's Yuzvendra Chahal. It's a crazy coincidence. I think Avesh Khan is there in
Oh
the
yeah,
reserves
as
with Rinku Singh.
reserves. Yeah, yeah, with Rinku.
We all, I
Mhm.
don't know, we don't see Avesh Khan all that frequently anymore. We see Khalil and Rinku Singh, but
Yeah,
Avesh is also there
Saw
as well
Khalil
then.
that day. Hard. Oh, Avesh and Shubman might have been sent back.
Sent back. I know Shubman was
Yeah,
definitely sent back. I don't know about Avesh yet.
yeah.
Maybe.
Um,
Anyways, India again, we're definitely expecting unchanged. Any bowler that South Africa can realistically target because a lot of teams have been trying to target Hardik, and while Hardik does go for runs, he
Aksar,
also has a knack of picking up wickets. Axar,
Aksar.
really?
You have to. You have to take a chance.
Klassen, I guess.
Exactly. Klassen off the back foot, off the
Maybe
back
Stubbs, if
stool.
he has any experience from that IPL.
Yeah.
If,
Kuldeep,
unlike
Kuldeep,
Kuldeep, Akshar
Kuldeep,
if bowled
unless he
against him.
bowls full tosses, if you get 7 and over from him, you're winning most days. As long as you're not giving him like 4 wickets, and then you have Jadeja and Aksar. Even if they bowl 2-2 each or 3-1, whatever, I feel like those 4 overs you have to make use of it. How many over they bowl? 3, 2 to 4 anywhere, right? You just have to make use of it because if you don't make use of it, it's not gonna happen.
Maybe better odds for South Africa, no matter how we look at it, from both South Africa and India's perspective, would be to bat first. But because
Yes,
we're still talking about India, realistically, do you think India will just win the toss and say we're going to bat first? That's not what a lot of teams do.
100%. They're gonna want to bat first because right now the pitch might just provide them a little bit of assistance with playing it down the ground, playing it straight, not worrying about playing your, hoiks and slugs and etc. And then when once he goes out there and he's playing on grass, it just like the whole mindset of a final is very different, and that experience factor or just that comfort factor just plays in a lot more. Because would you play Siraj? Would you risk it?
I wouldn't even think about it. No way. No way.
Do
I
you
don't even think Siraj is the best candidate to have even made it into this T20 squad. I'm not saying he's a bad bowler. I'm
Who would you
saying
have
that
picked?
I would have had to think about it. They don't exactly have a lot of options screaming at them. Natrajan, maybe.
Hmm.
Khalil or
Hmm.
Avesh, maybe because they're
Maybe.
there in the reserves. They were good
I
enough
I
to at
thought
least
Khalil
fly here.
I thought Khalil was probably going to be picked as a left arm option, but
But then you have to remember
Arshdeep
Khalil and Arshdeep play the same role basically, so they can't go
exactly.
for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So maybe Avesh would have been a decent option just because of the versatility that
Mr.
Avesh
Long
brings.
Legs, Mr. Long Legs.
They
Uh,
really are missing Shami in that sense, but again, the conditions haven't made them miss Shami too much.
no, and I mean they're the only team that came to this World Cup with 4 spinners because
Rohit said he specifically asked for four spinners. It's a
when you
bold
know
statement.
where you're gonna play your semi-final, it's much easier to plan your squad, right?
But it's
But
also
I
easier
think
when when you are confident that you're going to execute
yeah,
the
yeah.
same set of spinners
I
throughout
think
the tournaments.
everyone knows West Indies is gonna turn. 90% time of the it turns, right? So I think other teams also have to like. I don't know what the Bangladesh analyst honestly does. Use this guy.
I mean, Bangladesh, in terms of Bangladesh, they kind of did have a plan. They did try three specialist spinners in that
Yeah,
sense. Like,
yeah, yeah.
not
No,
specialist spinners,
I'm
but
just
three
talking
spinners.
like in a broader sense. Like every team just didn't have that plan, and I think everyone was worried about what they will get in US that they kind of forgot to account for what will
West
we
Indies,
get
where
in
the
West
Super 8s
Indies.
was taking place. All of the
Exactly.
Super 8s, by
All
the
of
way.
the Super 8s. Like after the group stage is done, after your first four games, you still have to play three more games, right? But they just didn't account for that.
Do you think this is a very off topic before we go into South Africa? Very off topic, but do you think it was a missed opportunity to not have any Super 8s game, at least in Dallas?
100%. 100%. You should have at least given a couple. Just two. People just got a taste of cricket. They just started liking it. And you give them a weekend game, a
High
weekend Saturday,
stakes.
high stakes, one game on Saturday, one game on Sunday. It just broadens it so much more. But we know that ICC don't really think about the format of the tournament or the structure of the tournament properly. They just think about where can we make the most monetary gain.
Now, South Africa. How important is the toss for Aiden Markram?
The most important part of the day. He wins that toss, he's feeling 10 times better throughout. He loses the toss, he's probably feeling like he's playing catch up at that point. But man, kudos to this South African team. There were a lot of close moments in this tournament for them. The guys are very experienced. This is a very experienced group of players, and their experience showed because they kept hanging on, kept hanging on, kept hanging on. Um, Someone was complaining that Nasir Hussain was complaining that why is Rashid Khan fielding at the long on boundary when he should be inside talking to the bowler. Markham feels at the boundary and he feels no pressure with it. But these are the things that you kind of have to normalize, right? The captain can go and field at the boundary if he's one of the
It's been
best fielders
happening in T20s forever almost. It's
forever.
just the DRS that made people talk about it a bit more.
Yeah,
Nothing else.
you don't always need the captain to be up your bum, right? Like
Especially not if
if
you have someone like QDK who's been playing
yeah,
forever now.
forever, exactly. But no, really happy for this group. I think they have deserved it. They were close in 2020, sorry, 2023 ODI World Cup before they lost to Australia. So, Quinton, he himself said that he's been part of so many champion of South African teams. He doesn't know why they never got it that far. But they've gotten over that semifinal curse now onto the final.
Now, here is a bit of a weird question, but in terms of the playing 11, I know we talk about going unchanged, especially if you have such a thumping win
Yeah,
the in the semifinals, but against India, in conditions where there might be rain,
yeah,
do you consider dropping one of your spinners for Bartman, who did not have a good game against England, or at least who did not have a good third over against England? He had a
yeah.
very good
First,
two overs,
two
and then
overs.
a horrible third over where
Yeah.
I don't even know what he was
I
doing.
mean, Bartman has a good record this World Cup. Except that one over, he's actually bowled really well.
Like, it's crazy to think one over, not even one game,
One
one
game,
over,
it's just one over, and all
where
of a
his team
sudden
didn't
he's an
even lose in the end of the
afterthought.
day.
He all of a sudden he's an afterthought, right? But you can take a punt. It's a punt that's worth it because my only thing is, ah,
Maharaj
I
has also been their only genuine number eight.
yeah,
Do you
yeah,
trust Kagiso Rabada now
Rabada
to be
not.
that number eight then? That becomes the question. It's
Uh,
not that Rabada can't bat. He can. He absolutely
he
can. But
can, but it's
if
that
it comes to those
final.
tight situations against Jasprit Bumrah squirming out a few singles here and there, you feel more comfortable with Keshav Maharaj, who has, oh, what,
In
six test
India
half
is a
centuries or something.
India is a little, sorry, not little complacent once it gets to the lower middle order or the tail enders,
Tailenders.
and that's where you gotta have guys who can strike and take advantage of that, and that might be if we were playing on a where we are. I guess it's gonna be from the pictures. It looks like a very batting friendly wicket. So
But
if
West
it
Indies
is
wickets are hard to tell on
hard
the
on
surface
the
with the
surf,
picture.
yeah,
It's very hard to tell.
I feel like whatever they decide in the morning, and if they decide, you know, let's take a chance with benching us, it'll be interesting to watch.
And I won't, even though he had a really good game against Afghanistan, I won't even be surprised if it's Shamsi who's snubbed instead. And
Yes,
snubbed is a strong word. Maybe tactically replaced would be the
tactically.
correct phrase.
Yeah. Sorry. Um, you can take a chance with Shamsi because you almost know that he might be away from one bad game. He might be like really. So you don't want that at the final. But if you get yourself an extra edge with a matchup somewhere for that final by dropping him, so be it. End of the day, 11 guys can only play, but that whole squad gets a medal. So,
And there is the factor, I know we talk about how we don't want to focus too much on the whole right hand, left hand thing, but it is still an important factor that India have not one but four middle order
yeah,
batters who are
yeah,
left-handed. We're assuming that Jaiswal won't play because that
yeah,
would be weird to make that change all of a sudden. But
yeah.
with four left-handed batters in the middle, it's very unlikely that South Africa end up bowling with and bowling well with two left-arm
Two left
spinners,
hands.
although they are two different type of left-arm spinners.
Yes, 100%. 100% agree.
And Markham was asked in the press conference after the semi-final that, do you think Janssen will again be a big asset for you like he was against Afghanistan? Because again, they didn't know India were going to qualify yet, so they were like both India and England have two right-handers opening for them, and they're likely going to open in the final as well.
Yeah.
Do you think India might take that into account as well and then try and change things up just because of how effective Janssen has been with the new ball and how much Virat Kohli has struggled?
Yeah, I mean, chatter gets around, and
It
once
was a funny
chatter.
moment. Harsha Bhogle was mentioning how Virat Kohli got out 9 times against left arm seamers. I'm like, oh, okay, that's not so bad. He's had a huge career. That's not so bad. Then he
Yeah,
said this year alone. I was like, okay, we're not even halfway through
halfway through
2024.
that. Yeah,
That's
exactly.
scary.
Yeah. Um, what do you make of Risa Hendricks? We talked about this before, but
I didn't like too. I don't want to be harsh, but I didn't like too much of what I saw. I saw very little of
mm,
Rickleton just before the
hmm
series.
hmm
In West Indies. That's what I'm saying. Like, it's one thing to perform in the SAT20 in familiar conditions, but here in the West Indies, he did not exactly look comfortable. And
yeah.
I don't think that's a risk they'd want to take, to be honest. A bit more accomplished opener at hand,
hmm
sure, 100%. I'm trying to think, do they have. If they had someone like Faf Lucayo, they could have actually tried something weird, like, opening with
Mister
Faf Lucayo and then asking him to bowl in the middle,
Ball in
something
the
like
man.
that.
Oh my God, he might have been looking after. He might be looking for us because that might be a little too much for Mister Feklik. Uh, but I mean, good player though. What who do
Wait,
you
wait, wait,
think is
hold
the
on, hold on, hold
most?
on. We were talking about number eights, right? We were talking about how Maharaj is the best possible number eight, and the one thing you
Herald
spoke about
Quincy.
Bartman. We didn't speak about Quincy. He's an option too. I
Yeah,
forgot
I
about
just
him.
thought about that. I just thought about that. Yeah, no, I'm surprised he actually didn't play a game at that World Cup. A lot of all this, where the players didn't play a game, etc., everyone blamed Josh Hazelwood for that. He went away to a press conference, started talking about how they might botch a game to not let England qualify, etc., etc. And then everyone went on high alert that, oh, I can't
Play with the best
change.
11 every day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I can't change my squad. I can't do this. Like, I tried changing some subscription links, and whatever I copy pasted from API was the same link on the YAML, and I was like, oh, come on, man. But that's the reality of it. Yeah, South Africa versus India, 7 hours from now, 8 hours from
So AB de Villiers, he's the one who actually posted recently about how, open letter to the Proteas, bring it home, lads.
now.
And
Yeah,
this is one of our comments from India, and this time I think he means Aiden Markram, not
yeah,
Eden. That's back in India,
yeah.
of course, Eden Garden.
Eden
Aiden
Markham
Markram,
would
great
create
history.
history.
I mean, he is a captain who has technically won at the
Yeah,
under 19 level for
yeah.
South Africa, two SA20s as captain.
And
So one of
SAA.
SA.
Yeah. Um, no, once you saw him in that 2014 or 2016 under 19 World Cup, you kind of always knew this guy was gonna be a good captaincy material. And they tried it with him in 2018 when he was probably way too young for
Way
it.
too young.
Um, but he's grown in multiple folds now since then, and he's obviously just grown in confidence, Mr. Markram. And I don't know why they should have kept him as IPL captain. Probably would have helped him.
But to be fair, Cummins did a very good
Yeah,
job, and
yeah, yeah. I
they
mean, they
can't really
played the
complain.
final. They
They
played the
played the
final,
final
so it is what
after coming last in the season before that.
season
So
before. Yeah,
they can't really complain with that. And I think we're pretty much done.
yeah.
Pradin, thank you very much. One final prediction of something weird, or not even weird, so something particular that you think will happen in the final.
India lose 2 wickets early.
2 weeks early.
Rohit Sharma, Virat Kohli, under 10.
I would say it would be Virat Kohli, Rishabh Pant.
Virat Kohli, Rishabh Pant. Okay, that's a big breaking the back kind of a situation.
But again, that doesn't really
That,
guarantee India
yeah, yeah.
losing. The way things
No,
have gone for India, it doesn't really say much.
the script is set this year, boys. No mishaps allowed. But in all seriousness, I think uh, it's gonna be a good game. Hopefully it's not one-sided. Hopefully both teams put their best foot forward, play some courageous, play some fearless cricket. That's what people want to see, and play to the conditions. This is the condition that requires you to just play straight bat shots, no cross-batted hoiks, so be it, man. This is, testing your technique, testing your patience on a pitch, and you get 120, 130. All of a sudden, the game looks interesting.
Love the tournament, but also let's just wrap up now instead of going into the reserve day. No rain, hopefully,
Oh, please.
because there is
I
a
don't want
strong
to.
chance of rain in
Yeah,
Barbados.
yeah.
But I
There's
just
a.
hope we wrap
I
it up
just
within the
hope,
next few
yeah, yeah.
hours.
It's done. It's done. Get it over with,
Get it
so
over
that
with.
people can't complain, etc.
Something that stretches for too long doesn't feel as good. So
No.
no, just get it over with for now. I think that India should start with spin. That would be an interesting strategy. I wouldn't
Yeah.
write it off, but
No.
it's also the fact that they don't exactly have an off spinner to start with. So it'll be interesting to start with a
Mr.
left arm spinner
Axar.
against
Mr.
QDK, who is
Uh,
a pretty good player of left arm spin. So that'll
you
be
know what?
interesting.
You know what's a good matchup there? Imad Wasim was pretty successful against Dickok, I think, back in the day. Just thinking about
Darting it in,
left arm spinner to left-handed batters, because he bowls that, wide of the crease darts.
dart.
Axar Patel, wide of the crease darts. It just might work.
QDK is still a much improved batter though from that
Yes,
time of
yes,
you know
yes.
Imad Wasim being at his peak.
Peak. Yeah, yeah.
It's a different time now, but still, I
Yeah.
wouldn't write that strategy off because it'll also disturb Hendricks at the other end.
Hendricks at
It'll
the other
also
end.
disturb Markham if you manage to get that first wicket. So
Yeah.
that is a genuine concern, and
It's
they may even be forced to push Klassen up if that happens.
best player of spin in the country in South Africa,
And
maybe
if
in the
he
world.
fumbles, that's it. That's it. India have the tournament right there.
India have the tournament and the next 10 tournaments.
Yep. All right, all the very best to both teams. They have played exceptionally good cricket. Hope there is no drama off the field. That's what we're
Oh,
more
yes,
concerned
that will
about.
be more. Yeah. I just don't
It's
want any ugly stuff. Don't want any chatter around, benefits or upper hands and anything like that. Just play a fair, classy game without any of that, and may the best team win.
I'm still writing it off as 60-40 India, but let's see. Let's hope for the best.
Let's
All right, folks, thank you very much for watching. And Fardin Kibria, thank you very much for this late night show. Goodbye.
thank you. Bye bye.